Boys and girls, get loose, grab your juice. It's Casual Samuel. Let's talk hoops. And today, I want to talk about the ceiling of the team that's from the 2-1-3, the purple and gold, the team that's ran by the GM, the Los Angeles Lakers. Before even diving deep into what I think the ceiling could be for the Los Angeles Lakers, we actually have to go back in time, in my opinion, to look at what they did and more so what they didn't do in the 2024 NBA offseason, because Rob Pelinka had a masterclass. I tell you what, because he drafted Dalton Connect and Bronny, as I'm sure you already know. They lost Dinwiddie and Taurean Prince in free agency. Not huge losses. Probably, if anything, addition by subtraction, in my opinion. And then outside of that, the only really noteworthy moves that they made was signing Christian Coloco in mid-September. That's literally it. That's literally all Rob Pelinka really did in the 2024 offseason after getting gentleman swept by Denver back in April, May. They couldn't get DeMar, they couldn't sign Clay, they couldn't get KCP, or they couldn't even get Jonas Valanciunas, which I'm pretty sure he signed for like $10 million. And what I really want to reiterate and stamp home when it comes to Rob Pelinka, and again, more so what he didn't do in this NBA offseason, is that LeBron was willing to take a pay cut. I think we've already forgotten as NBA fans that back in June, July, hopefully I'll have the actual report up on the screen, he was willing to take a decent sized pay cut. I think he still took one so they didn't get it into the second apron, but he was willing to take a pretty sizable pay cut for them to sign a mid-level guy. And they couldn't get the aforementioned names, again, of DeMar, Clay, KCP, or Jonas Valanciunas. Clay's dad literally played for LA, and Clay wanted no part of that organization. So that's what the front office / more so Rob Pelinka didn't do. So what's first-year head coach JJ Redick walking into this season? Well, he's got D'Lo at the 1, Austin Reeves at the 2, LeBron probably at the 3, Rui Hachimura at the 4, and then AD at the spot he loves playing the most, at the 5. Key reserves looking like for them, Gabe Vincent, Dalton Connect, who's been, as we've been seeing, balling out in the preseason. At the time of recording, he just dropped 35 in that preseason game against Phoenix. So he's been balling out. Jackson Hayes is another probably key reserve. And then Vando when he gets back healthy. So if we're looking at that starting 5, I think they're definitely at a play-in, you could argue maybe play-off team for sure. That starting 5. But dude, that bench reeks. Dude, that bench is pretty buns, if we're being honest. What I will say, though, JJ, which I've noticed in these preseason games, maybe you've caught it too, JJ has this offense moving and booming, man. I think what I have here in the notes, because I saw it on social media, actually, right as it happened. I think it happened in their first or second preseason game. But there was a clip he had when he was still doing his old man and 3 stuff, talking to Dan Hurley about a skip concept out of a horns action and how he JJ was obsessed with that play. Dude literally copy pasted, which the NBA and basketball is a very copycat league, copy pasted that and already used it in preseason. So I think compared to what they had with Darvin Ham last year, what JJ will be able to do, even with this, I would argue, limited roster, I think will be a major step up as to what they've been dealing with in the years of Darvin Ham and before that, Frank Vogel, whatever. JJ is going to bring a whole new identity to the offense, in my opinion. And last thing I have here is Stan Van Gundy, I think, nailed it on the head with describing the Los Angeles Lakers, where he was very critical, and I'll put the article in the description and have probably chunks of it up right now. Very critical on the Lakers roster front, and they're really putting JJ in a weird position for this first-year head coach, even though he's got LeBron, this and that. The offense and just roster construction built around LeBron and AD is suspect, I would argue, at best. I mean, Austin Reeves is a great role player type guy, but I think Stan Van Gundy really nailed it on the head when it comes to what is JJ working with. And I think some moves are going to have to be made to avoid a deadline disaster and help your first-year head coach out in JJ Redick, because, again, you're looking at a bottom 10 depth, a 40-year-old LeBron that's still defying basketball science, and then you sprinkle in title aspirations. I think all of that accumulates and equals a really awkward position for the front office. But with an asterisk, Rob Pelinka and the boys, they put themselves in this position, I would argue. Some of the moves I could see them making, though, is I would see this even probably pre-deadline that they could pull off. I could see them trading Vando, Jalen Hood-Schifino, their 2029 first-round pick, probably top 5 protected, if I were to guess, to Utah for a reunion to get Jordan Clarkson. He had an off year last year. I think we all know that when it comes to his shooting splits, but maybe playing in that LA sun would perk him up instead of the cold Utah winters. But I think the fit there would be nice to have some sort of spark plug off the bench, because right now you're looking at your best scorer off the bench being probably maybe Dalton Connect as a rookie. I mean, he showed out again, like we touched on before, in the preseason, but like regular season, and then if they get to the postseason, is a whole different game. That's the first move I think I could see them making. Next, I could see them trading Cam Reddish, Christian Wood, Christie, plus the Clippers' 2025 second-round pick, their own 2031 second-round pick, to Portland for Robert Williams. I think the Robert Williams fit is just too good to be true on paper. I mean, in some of the short-form stuff, I really wanted, just as an NBA fan, for the Lakers to pull that move off, because having AD then again slip to his natural position that he wants to play at the 4, and then you move Rob to the 5. I mean, he's had, especially in the early days of his career-ish, like 3-4 years ago, he was having postseason runs with Boston, albeit he was probably hurt here and there. He's had experience in the postseason. I think he's a great 5 for them that's athletic. Even if it doesn't fit, you still get another piece that isn't Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood as your backup 5 or big man. I like the fit. But outside of those two moves, that's the most I hope they do. And that's just on the fact of I don't want them to waste all of their first-round picks on some big fish, whether that be like a Trae Young, Zach LaVine maybe, but I think Zach's price is dipping just because of the contract. Main thing, I don't want them to try and do a Russell Westbrook 2.0. I'm not saying Trae would be that, but they're finally in a position again where they have somewhat of an asset pile that they're sitting on. They, as Laker fans, NBA fans, they don't need to be just wasting all that in the wind to try and kind of put a Band-Aid on a fix now situation. I think their main issue is depth, and I think that's what's really holding back their ceiling, to be honest. So then with potential deadline moves like that, and the title suggests, what's the ceiling? What's the ceiling for the Los Angeles Lakers in this 2024-2025 NBA season? Between the lack of the offseason moves, JJ running the ship now, and potentially, hopefully, busy deadline day for them, I don't think it's that high. I really don't. I think 2020 was LeBron's last time playing in June. I think that was his last real title shot. Denver's really walked all over them the past 2 years now, especially the past 2 years. I mean, a sweep and then a gentleman's sweep. They got the Lakers' number for sure. And last year, again, we touched on it. And I think it was even the watchability, and then brought it up in the kind of prediction for where I had the Lakers at, which I predicted they'd be the ace seed. But again, they had the 15th offensive rating last year, 17th defensive rating, and they had the lowest three-pointers attempted, which, especially that last part, I think the three-pointers attempted will change with JJ there, just the actions and he's running, and just the way I think he'll kind of infuse his coaching style. I think there's going to be a lot more threes Laker fans will see than what they were dealing with last year in Darvin Ham's system. But how much? Because this roster has major flaws. A lot of it, too, on the scoring front. I personally am a fan of Vando's game. Doesn't really have much of a lick of offense other than transition play, and I think maybe being kind of a lob cutting threat. Austin Reeves will get buckets, depending on the night. D'Lo will get his buckets, a little bit of a defensive liability. Also, he is very streaky, and I think a lot of Laker fans have issues with how he kind of shows, but more so doesn't show up in the playoffs or big moments. LeBron's going to be LeBron, AD will be AD. But outside of that, I mean, where's the scoring coming from on a consistent night-to-night basis? Because right now, as it stands, in my personal opinion, again, what I rank them, OKC, Dallas, Minnesota, Denver, Phoenix, Memphis are all for sure better than the Lakers. No hesitation, stud, or anything. All those teams mentioned are better than the Lakers. You cannot argue, unless you're throwing in weird injuries, whatever, if any of their main guys go down. Yeah, there's going to be fluctuation. All healthy rosters on paper, all of those, 6 teams right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. All 6 teams are better than the Lakers. Like, no question. And then you can make an argument maybe like Pelicans, Houston, Sacramento, Golden State, depending on the day, could be also argued as better than the Lakers roster right now. Like, if Zion, touching on Zion right away, before Zion went out in that playing game, he already dropped a hot 40 piece on them. Same with the LeBron. Don't forget that he was willing to take a pay cut. Let's not forget that Zion was dogging the Lakers in that play-in game. Like, he had the 40 piece and then went out with the hammy. Dude, he was putting up numbers, and like the Lakers could not stop him. Even with like LeBron and healthy AD, Zion was having his way. So they almost went from being, which they finished as the 7th seed last year. They could have very easily been the 8th seed and had to play another play-in game. And then who knows, because it's a single elimination game, who knows how that would have gone, right? So either way, I think mixing in the lack of moves from Rob, the potential, which I would argue is the high potential of JJ's offensive wizardry that he'll be bringing to this organization, LeBron and AD duo with at best, shaky depth. That's being like nice. I think their absolute ceiling, and this is everything falls into place and goes their way, I think their absolute ceiling is finishing as the 6th seed, which is already a stretch, in my opinion. But that's like LeBron's having, again, 25, 7, 8 type season. AD plays as many games as he did last year and is producing at like defensive player of the year type numbers. Austin Reeves is like the exact kind of like Derek White role player that they need. D'Lo's not hurting them offensively, and he's carrying his own defensively. And with that best case scenario, I think what's, again, their most optimal, what they could kind of have going into this season is they face a Minnesota in the first round, and maybe Mike Conley looks washed and Julius Randle's hurt. They move on from the first round, and then you know what? They're going to get bounced in the second, because you'd probably face like either OKC, Dallas, Denver, or Phoenix, probably in that second round. All those 4 teams are going to walk the Lakers in probably like no more than 6. I think like it would be a borderline gentleman's sweep, I think, against all those other 4 teams. I don't see, not that there's not a lot of positive light for this Lakers organization. This front office has put them in a weird situation, which like some of that is maybe the GM. I think a lot of it, though, is Rob Pelinka and how he's kind of navigated the past 2-3 years. Pretty much, again, ever since the 2020 title, they've also made questionable moves. Like, I've been pretty harsh on Denver's front office letting KCP go. I mean, Lakers let KCP go. They brought in Russell Westbrook trade because they panicked. Like, either way, I think, again, to kind of circumvent all of it back together, I think they're going to be, at best, for their ceiling, I still project them as the AC, but I think their ceiling is the 6th seed. They maybe face Minnesota, and again, you're kind of like a shooting star. Mike Conley looks washed. Julius Randle's hurt because he's got injury stuff, and they kind of magically in 6 or 7 go to the second round, and they get bounced. So overall, 6th seed, I think they would get bounced in the second. That's their absolute ceiling. I don't see them going to the conference finals. I sure as hell don't see them in the finals whatsoever. But again, that's what I think the Lakers' ceiling is. What do you think the Lakers' ceiling is? Do you agree? Do you see them as like a 6th seed? Do they even get to the play-in? Where do you think LeBron and the squad will finish? Outside of that, that's going to do it for today's video. If you're not subscribed, dude, I literally have a degree in casual takes. You're going to want to subscribe and hit that like button. But that's officially it for me today. I will see y'all in the next one.